welcome back.
It's great to be back.
Because we never left.
We,
Would you mind talking a little further?
I can talk.
I did a couple of workshops with Alan Arkin.
You did?
Yeah, I studied with him.
I want him to be the star. There's no joke. He would be the star of the special. And maybe Alan is watching this show. Alan Arkin it's a special called How Murray Saved Christmas. It's based on a kid's book I wrote, and it's coming on NBC Christmas 2014. And Alan Arkin, he's my dream for the lead in this thing, playing Murray. So tell me about Alan Arkin.
Well, you know, he cleared my mind. I used to get confused. He said, raw intention. If you don't know what you are doing, don't ever get on that stage. You will be fumbling. And I couldn't relate to objects and all these words they use, but when he said intention, I could understand because I was trained in criminal law. I came school first. So for every crime, there has to be an intention, that's mens rea, and a physical act. So that hit me, and then it changed my acting. But afterwards, it was difficult for me to appreciate the Saturday Night Live. He only does it in 2 days, Saturday and Sunday in 2 days. And he gives everything you could learn. So second day we have to bring in some original creative thing. And I brought some stuff for like Clinton bringing Monica Lewinsky for Hillary's birthday, and Jesse Jackson was, and all those other people were there. He thought it would never work. And then I had the whole gang of people. So it worked. He said, it worked for you because you believed in it.
Oh, wow.
But what I learned from that is then I started really understanding Saturday Night Live, which is, before that is the Second City. So when I started creating some things, I wrote my play. But on the script, when I'm writing, I found it more easier to improvise on this scene, even though I have an idea of the scene, improvise on the scene, and then get a good scene out of it, shoot it. That's why I brought in the Woody Allen thing, because he does the same thing. A lot of these directors, they work it on the show. So, but did you ever get to work with Second City, maybe go visit? And
No, I've been to Second City, and I've worked with the man who plays Homer Simpson came out of Second City, and I was just with my friend David Rashi, who he starred on a show called Sledgehammer. He came out of there. They're all great, genius guys. It's a brilliant training for comic actors, and in fact, it's exactly the equivalent the way half the Simpsons writers came out of the Harvard Lampoon. You know, so many of your great comic actors come out of Second City, and it's just sort of a training ground. It's a great way to learn your craft, to learn, you know, how there's no comedy school, but there's Second City, and there's no comedy writing school, but there is the Harvard Lampoon. It's a little accidental how well it works, how well these skills, the skills they develop come through in later life. So I love what the Second City does. You know, I'm just a writer. I never want to direct. I never want to act. I wrote a new play it's about me. It's about a disgruntled 53-year-old comedy writer. There's so little creativity went into it. It's just me. But I can't find somebody to play me. We're going to do the show in August, and I go, and I know that I'm thinking, if I was some other guy, I'd say, well, let me play it. I wrote it, let me play in it. I'm paying for it. Why can't I start? But I just know I can't do it. I don't get what you guys do. Even though I've spent a career working with actors, I don't understand it. I'm so glad there are people who want to act, because I'm probably that one guy in 1,000 who never wants to act at all.
Well, you know, I have a problem with that. When I wrote my play, because no one was putting me on Broadway, I said, okay, you don't want to put me on Broadway, I'm going to put myself on Broadway.
Okay.
So I wrote my own play.
And you star in it.
Yeah, I'm starring in it.
You've
But
done
then-
readings, right?
Yeah, and when I went for readings, I went to even Harlem, because they will be more kinder to my topic, which is untouchables.
Okay.
But they said, well, since you wrote it, you can't play it. You have to hear it other people do.
Well, that's kind of true, too.
And then I said, well, didn't Shakespeare play in his own plays?
Yeah. Suddenly you're Shakespeare. Okay. No, but you're right. But he's Shakespeare. He
Yeah.
also, I don't think he took the leads. I don't think he played King Lear or anything.
I don't know. I don't understand this American concept that, oh, if you wrote the play, you can play the characters.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Woody Allen writes and directs and stars. He has no perspective on it, but he's great.
I mean, the star of the 30 Rock.
Yeah. Tina Fey, sure.
Tina Fey.
Writes and creates and stars. Sure, you can do it.
So, did you ever had a chance work with Tina Fey? Or?
I did not, no.
Suppose if you both get together.
Well, she's free now. Nah, that's it. I like doing. I've come to a point in my career because I worked a real long time. I worked 30 years nonstop, and that's an eternity in show business writing. You know, in TV especially, you have about 20 good productive years if you're lucky. If you can get your foot in the door and get a job, you should only be expecting to have a 20-year career, and then they're done with you.
I like Stella. I don't know if you like Stella or not, but I started getting into her because she gave me a picture of the European history, a theatrical history, where all this Ibsen, Strindberg, and Chekhov, and all these people came. I didn't understand Chekhov until I did Gorky. Because Gorky went further than Chekhov. So, do you think probably you would go and explore some Moscow art theater? But now that you are interested in plays,
I might. We went to Ukraine and we're visiting, and I started reading the Ukrainian writers. I read Gogol, and that got me into Chekhov. You never know. I seem to do what I wind up watching a lot of. So I think if I don't know how it would happen that I suddenly had to see an awful lot of Russian plays, but maybe, yes, I'd become a heavy, serious, dramatic Russian-style writer. I don't know if it's going to happen. Maybe at my age, I will suddenly be the Gorky of my generation.
why not?
Why not? I do know when Chekhov was my age, he was dead for about 8 years.
I'm going to go switch the topics.
Oh, I thought we were done. No.
Well, in Bollywood to Hollywood, you never.
It is really. It's like a Bollywood movie. Okay, now the shootout.
Well, I'm kind of interested. Children are very special people.
Yes.
And you have written like 17.
Yes, I have. I've written 17 children's books, and in fact, I'm going to plug my new children's book. Not because I want to sell it, but because I want to see how many people are actually watching this show. So I wrote a kid's book called Tales of Moronica. It's like Tales of America, but instead of America, it's Moronica, and it's about the stupidest kingdom in the history of children's books. And it's a funny book, and I'm not plugging it because of that, but you can get it for your Amazon Kindle for 99 cents. That's why I'm plugging it. It's a whole book for 99 cents. And again, I'm just testing to see. I figure 1 out of 10 of your viewers might spend $1 to get this book. So I can go home and I see on the computer every time they sell a book. So if I sell 2 books, that means 20 people are watching your show. But maybe we'll sell thousands of books.
Well, I grew up in India.
Yeah.
As a child, we used to have this summertime. We sleep on the top of the second floor and under the beautiful skies. And then some old lady, some auntie, somebody tells us the stories.
Oh.
And they always tell the stories of there used to be a king, and he has a beautiful daughter, and she used to live on a 7-story building, and the prince comes in, and when they touch this the princess, she is forbidden to touch, and every day the king weighs the daughter. Every time a man touches her, other than the king, she weighs extra 1 more petal. She usually weighs 1 petal, but so whenever anyone touches, so her weight grows. So then there is a whole story goes on. Some animals help him, and he's go on an adventure. The king send him. Finally, they get married happily ever after. So we have a great tradition of storytelling. So and as Jewish people have the same, your ancestors.
Yeah.
And you have the very best talent from years of cultivation. So I'm wondering how is different from whatever you have done, because this seems like it's a new heart.
Yes, it's it ties into The Simpsons. When The Simpsons came on the air, as popular as the show is, when it first came on the air, it was the most shocking thing people had ever seen in their lives. And we were condemned by the National Council of Churches, and we were condemned, by the first President Bush came out against The Simpsons. And his wife, Barbara Bush, said, "The Simpsons is the stupidest thing I've ever seen." And this is the woman who gave birth to George W. Bush. So she wasn't looking very far. But so I remember going back to my college reunion, and there's a point to this story. I went to my college reunion, and I go to see this friend of mine who was a jazz musician. And he was so cool in college, and I thought, he'll be happy that I write The Simpsons. Instead, he started yelling at me, "I got kids, man. I can't let my kids watch your terrible show." So I said, you know what, I'm going to write a kid's book. I'm going to write something that's funny like The Simpsons and kind of wise guy and something the parents will enjoy. But I'll keep it clean. I'll keep it, it won't have bad language. It'll have positive values to it. And that's how I started writing children's books. And so I've written one after another. It just sort of came to me. I worked very hard. My first kid's book was 750 words long, and it took me 6 years to write.
Wow.
And this is the one that will be an animated special in a couple of years. It was a book called How Murray Saved Christmas. And I wrote this book, and it was rejected by every children's book publisher. And they read it. I got a personal letter from every publisher saying, "We don't want this book." And then I found a 13th publisher, Penguin Putnam, read the book, said, "Yeah, we'll publish it." And the book was a phenomenal bestseller. This book, in the kids' book business, if you sell 9,000 copies, you're a bestseller. And this book sold 180,000 copies. So, and I tell the story only to show you that every publisher in America had this book on their desk. People whose job it is to read a book and say, "Hey, this could be a bestseller." They all had it, and they rejected it. It shows you how frustrating it is. They had a potential bestseller, and they didn't print it. So I just kept writing kids' books after that. And
I mean, so does Harry Potter, too.
Yeah, yes. She had a lot of struggle, and then, yeah, there are a lot of people who turned down that book and, cost their publishing house $1 billion.
But I'm curious, do your stories come from your childhood?
No, they don't. And I have to say, my stories are more driven by jokes and funny stories. All I need is a little bit of a concept. I'm not a tale teller. I never can think of a good fairy tale or a story. And sometimes I just get a little notion. I'll tell you just a strange story. I went to see a Cole Porter musical, and he had a song called "I'm Always True to You in My Own Fashion." And this song had 35 verses to it. I mean, it just kept going. And all he would do is do a man's name and then do a funny rhyme. I knew a guy named Mark, and I met him in the dark. And then I knew a guy named Bill, and he gave me my fill. And I said, yeah, I'm going to write a kid's book like that, where I'm just going to make one rhyme and hit it over and over and over again. So I didn't even have an idea. I just had a theory of rhyme. So I said, what about a kid who's late for school? And he's late for school because things that rhyme with school happen. He falls in a pool, and he has to eat gruel, and he slips in some drool, and he goes on a date with Mercedes Rule, and that was the idea.
Rhythm in it.
That was it. It was just the rhyme that drove the book, and that one came out, and that was very popular too. So, and once I had a book, can I tell a longer story?
Yeah.
I had a book came to me in a dream. All right, one night I woke up at 3 in the morning, and I just had this dream. And because I'm a writer, I have paper and pencil by the bed, and I.
Is that how you write?
Yeah, I wrote down the whole story. I went back to sleep at 5 in the morning, and I woke up in the morning and had no recollection of this at all. And I just literally found the whole story written there, as if the elves had written it. And I sent it off to my publisher, and he bought it that day, okay? So the book was called The Boy Who Looked Like Lincoln. And it's about an 8-year-old boy who looks exactly like Abraham Lincoln. He's got the hat, he's got the beard, he's got the wart. He looks like Lincoln. And all the other kids make fun of him. So his parents send him to a camp for kids who look like things. And he meets a kid who looks like a toaster, and a kid who looks like a frog, and 4 kids who look like Mount Rushmore. And in the end, the boy who looks like Lincoln says, I realize it's not important what you look like. What matters is who you are, right? So I thought, what a sweet book. And it got some nice reviews. And then I started getting hate mail. There was hate mail. Your book is terrible. Your book. And a minister wrote to me. He said, we burned your book in our church parking lot. And that's not so bad, though, because before they burn them, they got to buy them. And the state of Texas, this happened just a couple of years ago. The state of Texas banned my book. It's been banned from Texas
You're a very popular
public
guy.
schools. And it took me a month. I go, why do they hate this book so much? What is wrong with it? And finally, someone wrote a letter to me and said, I love your book until the last page, which is pure pornography. So I go, what? And I had to spend another month looking at the last page of my book. It was like an obsession. What is pornographic here? The last page of the book, the boy who looks like Lincoln says, I feel better about myself. I hope I can help my baby brother Dick. And we see he's got a baby brother who looks exactly like Dick Nixon. And then right? And the kid's going like this, and he's got a 5 o'clock shadow, and he's got a little tape recorder. It's Dick Nixon. And it hit me. These people, these idiots, the state of Texas, they think his name is Dick because he looks like a penis. They think somehow that Simon & Schuster would decide, oh, we can put full frontal nudity on the last page of a children's book. And that was it. That's how stupid the people are who ban books and burn books. Or they don't recognize Dick Nixon. They don't have any sense of history. They don't have any sense of humor. And especially, they have filthy minds. The people who find filth everywhere have so much filth on the brain that they can't figure out that I wouldn't put a penis in the last page of a children's book.
You know, I always thought for children, it's all about fantasy.
Yeah.
It's all about imagination. Even Alan Arkin says children are natural actors.
Oh, he did say that.
Yeah, until 11 or 12, then they start changing. So for a child, you don't have to teach you acting. So they say, okay, you're a king. They say, pop, 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 pop. So they become suddenly a king. And it's very hard. Now you have to go the method acting, you have to go sense memory, you have to go through all these things. But children are natural. So I'm a little bit fascinated by the imagination. What's the source of your imagination when you write a children's book?
I don't know. You know, I keep coming back to it. I don't know. I don't know where it all comes from. The one thing I'll say is I have no kids, right? I'm married. I got no kids. And I thought, well, this is weird to be writing children's books.
Well, all children are your kids.
What? All children are my kids, or I think I'm the kid. Because then I found out, 90% of people have kids. And But Dr. Seuss didn't have any kids, and Lewis Carroll didn't have kids, and Hans Christian Andersen didn't have kids, and the guy who wrote Peter Pan and the woman who wrote Peter Rabbit. None of the kids' book writers had kids.
Maybe it is a desire to have kids.
Maybe, or entertain kids, or maybe they all get the job of being the uncle. They just have to entertain a kid for a couple of hours. Whatever it is, I don't know, but it came to me the same way it came to all of them. And I do have to say, I love writing kids' books, and I've written 18. That's a lot of kids' books. I wish someone would hire me to write a kid's book a week, because I could do it. I have that many, because it doesn't take a ton of ideas. I can't write a novel, but I could write a kid's book every week.
Why can't you write a novel?
Partly because I don't read novels, and partly because I don't have a million ideas. I have a couple of good ideas. It only takes 2 good ideas to write a kid's book.
I grew up with Arabian Nights.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, so with this magic carpet.
Right, I read those. They're great.
Yeah, I think probably for me, those were better days of imagination. I was fascinated. Even among the religious books, you can fly. Sometimes I think I sleep like I'm a Superman, I'm going to fly. But something happens and I wake up, I said, oh, I'm not flying.
Are there any Indian superheroes?
Yes, there are, but it is all connected with religion. See, in India, you cannot separate religion with arts and literature. They're all intertwined. Unlike what Americans think, spirituality is different from religion.
Got it.
But in India, it is all interconnected. That's why we have a problem with the untouchables. And, that's entirely the. But it's the kind of heroes you are talking about. I think we were influenced by a lot of these writings from Arabia. So when they came, the Muslims invaded. So Arabian Nights.
So Arabian Nights is Arabian.
Yeah. But
it came to India and you grew up. Okay.
Yeah, so we were kind of influenced. I think it still stays in our memories. And we grew up with a lot of those things. And also we have fantasies, because most of the Indian gods are fantasy stories.
Right. In fact, let me ask you this. I'll ask you in front of everyone. I had an idea for a cartoon show. We'd spent about a month in India.
Yeah.
And I said, you could do a cartoon superhero show with the Hindu gods, with Hanuman is such a great character. He's the monkey, right? And Garuda. And I said, could you do a funny kind of legion of superheroes that are all these Hindu gods? Or is that the most sacrilegious thing in the world? I mean, do they hold these characters so sacred? I mean, I wouldn't do Muhammad the Superman, or here's our funny Muhammad superhero show, but could you do it with Garuda and Hanuman and Ganesh?
Yeah, you can do it. But these people are, there are people that drink. The Prime Minister, Morarji Desai, he used to drink cow's urine, supposed to.
Oh, is that?
Yeah,
is that what we're drinking?
No, we are not. We are not drinking.
What? Oh my God!
Well, it's not Indian water, so you can be rest assured it's not from Ganges. But that's polluted from the water from Ganges nowadays. But anytime you touch the religious sentiments, there is a fine line you have to walk.
Right.
But there are people who went against religion, atheists. They exposed some of these religious obscure things. This so-called Aswamedha Yaga and all these things. It was like having sex with a horse. These are put up in Sanskrit and put up in holy scriptures. And the problem was that the Brahmins had a monopoly of literature, arts, and culture. But if you really go to the people that are deprived, you call it untouchables, Dalit, whatever you may want to call it, they have used a drum, like a tribal. They have their stories.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in my native tongue, the tribal women, they used to sing songs. Some of the radicals, they use the tribal traditions to radicalize these people and liberate them. And people who are reformists, they done it. People who are atheists, went against the caste and advocated for intercaste marriage, they have done it. So, so since you don't care so much about the religion, you can do it because there are so many loopholes. I mean, if you keep worrying about offending the religious feelings of these people, well, they should be exposed.
Okay, all right. I'm just wondering, I don't taste this. I don't want to make a billion enemies
well,
with
you know,
a little cartoon show.
Well,
I created The Critic. I made a lot of enemies with that. I don't want to do that again.
What is that critic about?
I did an animated show called The Critic, about a film critic. It starred John Lovitz and has a very nice cult following. People who like that show really like the show. But it went on the air, and we got some good reviews. And the next day, my secretary walked in with a big box. I go, "Hey, what's that?" And she goes, "That's hate mail." And we got so much hate mail on the show. The public at large just hated the show, hated the character. We were canceled after 6 weeks. But that's it. It has its core of followers. I think it's a funny enough show. But boy, you hate getting hate mail.
Well,
that's my second hate mail story in 5 minutes. These people don't really like me. It's probably the end of your show. Having me on.
Well, you know, mine is a non-profit show, so
Okay.
I want to educate people.
Okay.
Because nobody tells the story of the other side.
Yeah.
It's a few people who has control, monopolize the religion, and they are telling the Americans this is what it is. America, the Swamis came, but they're buying Rolls-Royce cars. And I hope this makes the interaction between the East and West. I say Bollywood to Hollywood. Thanks for coming on to my show.
What a pleasure. This was so much fun.
It's wonderful.